I'm going to talk to you about the similarities and differences between food chains and food
If you were
webs.
given a list of these words, organize them in a way that would make a correct food chain. Pause the video and come back when you're done. So I'm going to pull these words up here because we're not going to use them right now. And then to make my food chain, I'm going to put the carrot first and as the producer, the rabbit as the primary consumer, the fox as the secondary consumer, and the lion as the tertiary consumer. And then I'm going to draw in arrows just to show the flow of this path. And as you can see, this is a food chain because there's just one direct pathway that each word follows. So next, with the remaining words, organize this food chain to look like a food web, and pause the video and come back when you're ready with your prediction. Okay, so next I'm going to add in the grass and the bird and the grasshopper. And then I can draw in more arrows saying that the rabbit will eat the grass, but then the grass can also be eaten by the grasshopper, and then the bird can eat the grasshopper.
A food web shows how plants and animals are connected in many ways. A food web shows multiple paths that an animal can follow to get its energy. A food chain shows a single pathway that animals obtain their energy from in an ecosystem. Although an animal can use many sources, a food chain just shows a general example.
We are asked, who is a secondary consumer in this diagram? So pause this video and see if you can figure that out. Alright, now let's work through this together. So let's just make sure we understand this diagram. When we have an arrow from grasses to mouse, it means that the grasses go into the mouse's mouth. It means that the mouse eats the grasses. Similarly, the grasshopper eats the grasses. And then we have these arrows from the mouse to the coyote, the hawk, the snake, the vulture. That means that all of these characters may eat the mouse. Likewise, a hawk eats a grasshopper. So now that we understand this diagram, let's label where these various folks fit in the food chain. So the grasses right over here, they are a primary producer. They are using photosynthesis in order to take light energy from the sun in conjunction with carbon dioxide in the air and water in order to store energy in its bonds. Now the grasshopper and the mouse eat that grass for that energy. And so the grasshopper and the mouse, since they directly eat that primary producer, they would be primary consumers. And I think you see where this is going. The folks who then eat the primary consumers, so this would be the hawk, the coyote, the vulture, and the snake, these would all be secondary consumers. Secondary consumers. And we're done. Who is a secondary consumer in this diagram? Well, you could say the coyote is a secondary consumer. The hawk is also a secondary consumer. The vulture is a secondary consumer. And so is the snake. And as you can see, that's okay even in a situation where some secondary consumers eat other secondary consumers. A coyote might eat a hawk, or a vulture might eat a snake, and a coyote might eat a vulture, which eats a snake, which might eat a mouse, which eats the grass. But any of these could be considered secondary consumers.